Well, think your passport is a get-out-of-jail-free card? This isn't Monopoly, and jail isn't the only thing Americans abroad have to fear. It's also death, in some cases by their own government. The Obama administration is continuing a policy implemented by President George W. Bush that targets American citizens who are associated with terrorist groups abroad. The policy allows U.S. troops to capture and even kill Americans who are deemed a national threat. Among the many hats he wears, Paul Craig Roberts is a nationally syndicated columnist. He's in Panama City, Florida right now and joins us to talk about this very issue. Paul, let's start first with your thoughts on this.
Well, they may as well kill them abroad because they kill Americans at home. I suppose the world has forgotten about Ruby Ridge and Waco. In Waco, Texas, the United States government killed 100 Americans, women, children, men, with an assault on a religious compound. And they came in with tanks, poison gas. There were very few survivors, and the very few survivors were put on trial. In other words, the victims of the slaughter were put on trial. And this, you can look it up on Google or anywhere, Waco. It's a very famous slaughter of people by the United States government. It happened only a few years ago. During the Clinton administration, Janet Reno was the official in charge of this slaughter. And just prior to that, we had Ruby Ridge, where United States agents had tried to convince a person to serve as an informer, and he refused. And so they attacked his home. They killed his wife. They killed his 12 or 13-year-old son, the family dog. They shot a friend in the back, and they shot him. And so it's not unusual that the United States government kills its own citizens. They do it at home as well as abroad. In fact, back in the 1960s, there was a group of blacks called the Black Panthers, and they were opposed to the injustices that black people suffered from the police, and they made various protests, and they also were either assassinated or arrested in prisons. So the world has a very unusual idea about the United States. It's essentially a police state.
Well, Mr. Roberts, it's interesting that you bring these situations up. These were, of course, isolated incidents. But, I mean, I can see the connection, but here's what I have to say about that. These are situations in which people were committing a crime and putting other people in danger. I mean, ever since the War on Terror became a household phrase, our nation's leaders have operated under the philosophy that they will capture and, if necessary, kill all terrorists who are threatening Americans.
But you see, the whole thing is a hoax. There were no terrorists in Waco.
Well, but there were people that were, you know, threatening other individuals, and they tried before they brought in the tear gas. They tried before.
No, there's no evidence of any. In fact, there are no charges that these people were threatening anyone. Randy Weaver at Ruby Ridge, no one has ever charged him with threatening anyone. In fact, the state of Idaho, where his wife and child was murdered, actually brought murder charges against the government agents who had killed them. And so, no, you're completely wrong. There's no evidence. No one has ever said, not even the United States government, which lies through its teeth every time.
All right, but we're not talking about Waco, though. I mean, let's talk about what we're talking about, which is the fact that what if Americans, I mean, don't you think it's important to national security that the U.S. government have a zero tolerance policy for anyone planning to hurt Americans, no matter where they were born?
If you believe the United States government.
I mean...
Look. The Russians. Did the Russians believe Stalin when Stalin told the Russian people that all the heroes of the Bolshevik Revolution were capitalist spies. He executed Bukharin, Kamenev, all of them. Everyone who had made the Bolshevik Revolution was executed by Stalin as capitalist spies. He sent assassins to murder Trotsky, who had won for the Bolsheviks the Civil War. Now, do you believe that? If you believe that, you might as well believe the United States government, because they tell the same kind of lies.
All right, Paul Craig Roberts, as usual, we thank you. Mr. Roberts is a nationally syndicated columnist.